Hello and welcome to the FedCast, our video games and industry podcast by GameFed. I'm Replenished and today I'm joined by VoicelessEcho.
Hi, how are you?
So, today's topic is aging gamers and what that means for the future of gaming. So, we saw a recent ABC article that said the largest age bracket for online gaming is over 55. And that got us thinking about how gamers are getting older and what that's going to mean for games. It's interesting to think of, so we think of gaming as a young people's game. We think of gaming as for the young people, but that's not the case anymore. Like, people who gamed when they were little kids are now adults and they're continuing to game and they're going to continue to game into their older years, and obviously older people are picking it up too. Like, people over 55 are playing games. They're in there.
Mm. And I've actually seen some studies about how it's good to keep with the gaming with the controllers and things for the muscle memory as well. So it could be a good reason why as well that we're seeing over 55s.
Yeah, well, it seems like health benefits wise, I do see a lot of things talking about the mental stimulation, how it's good for you as you get older to be getting in there and doing different things. And obviously physical wise, you're getting in there and you're still being active. I know people don't think of gaming as active, but it is in a way.
It is, yeah. Even if it's more mental and I guess hands and things like that. But then you've got things like the Wii that came out.
Absolutely. Like the types of games that are coming out now mean that Wii, all your Connect sort of games are that, I wonder about things like your Just Dances and the singing games and that, where you kind of got to be up and getting involved with. I wonder if they'd be popular with the older gamers.
As long as they don't break their hips, I'd say it'd be right.
Yeah, there's probably that risk of that, but that's probably the risk with young people too. It's getting a little too keen and breaking breaking themselves or something around them. So
it's probably less likely known for rage quits though.
Yeah. Yeah, so the thing I was thinking of, so with older gamers, they're probably going to want a different kind of game to what a young person wants. What I mean by that is, do you think that an older gamer wants a game that is more story-based?
I think it would go off, I know myself, it's hard with work and getting into story-based games. I do love them more than just the jump in, jump out, but it's the time factor. I guess with something where you need that quick time action reflex, obviously you're not going to be as good as some 16-year-old who's got
True, but I was thinking there's probably two sides of it, because I was thinking more in terms of the games I played when I was a kid versus the games I play now have changed a lot. And I was, find myself more and more seeking out games that have a bit more depth to them. But then by the same token, you're right that you have less time. You're much more money rich and time poor. Like, you've got the money now to play the games, but you don't have any time to play them because you've got a job and you've got to get things done.
Yeah, that's true. So what type of games did you used to play, I guess? And then what do you play now?
I played whatever. It was a different time when I was a kid. It was just whatever you could get. Like, I played demos and we had a PC. We didn't have consoles until later. I had a PC and it was basically, we played demos and just whatever I could get hold of. But I played things that I still play now. I played Civilization. I played, your sim kind of games, which, aren't deep in the story, but they take a long time.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, I could happily sink in 50 hours to a game, but that's not so easy to do now.
No, I feel your pain. It was about the same as, whereas I had consoles as a kid, but still the demo discs, because your parents weren't about to go out and buy an $80 game for you.
Oh God, no.
So it was those wonderful demo discs, and then whatever you got for your birthday.
Yeah, yeah.
Or Blockbuster. I mean,
Yeah, your
you could actually rent video games.
Yeah. Oh, so mine
Yeah.
big one with me was games that my brother played. So he would get them,
Yeah.
and then I would kind of get your hand-me-down PC games where I'd be like, "Oh, what's this?" I played things like, or I used to watch him play Doom because I don't think I was old enough to play it, but he played kind of your point-and-click sort of games, and then I would play them like your I can't remember what it was called. There was a redo recently. It was like it was a point and click game.
Monkey Island?
Oh, no, not Monkey Island, but it was like you were on a bike, you were a bikie, and you were going around the place, and it was point and click. I can't remember what it was called. But yeah, I played that. That was one of those ones that we got like a demo and then we played it through. And
yeah.
And then I played weird things like MUDs. I don't know if you remember MUDs. They're like the text-based online games. So pre-graphics, a time before graphics could really be on your dial-up internet, you had MUD games, so text-based adventure games. And I played some of them as well. So they were very exciting to me because it was this big world, but it was just words on the screen that you could read and interact with other people.
But yeah, I kind of, it is hard with not having the time. So I guess that's why mobile games are really picking up as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those indie games that only take it only takes 6 hours, but it's not going to be $80.
I think that even more so, there's those kind of indie games that are like 1 hour games where you just play it once through. It's kind of a beautiful experience and you're done with it. I think that young people wouldn't like that, but an older crowd would be, enjoying that. I've done that now. I suppose the difference is because there's the twofold. We're talking about like adult gamers, but like there's older gamers like who are in the workforce, but there's also older gamers as in retirees, because then you start going around the other way again when you've got time again, so you can start getting back into the games that take a long time.
Yeah, so you see that grandma who plays Skyrim. Yeah, like I can understand. I guess
I think
it does
the same.
go.
I would just go and find myself some like amazing world game where you can just sink a couple of 100 hours, and I think I'd start taking up like The Witcher and all those sort of games when there's just side quest upon side quest when you can just have the time.
Yeah, and you just got the time to do it. Like, you're not like, okay, I've only got this much time. I don't care about your side quest and what you want me to collect. I need to finish the story.
Yeah, I gotta get to the story, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were talking before about the physicality. You were saying about reflexes, and
yes,
that is very true about the Twitch-based games. That happens really, really early on as well. Like once you get into your 30s, you don't have the reflexes anymore. So and then obviously the older you get, surely it gets worse. So I feel like your shooting games wouldn't necessarily be that popular in an older crowd because it's just impossible as you get older. And
you wouldn't be able to keep up with them with the Twitch reflexes.
You gotta, you can't play against a 15-year-old who's just like, just zooming around. You're like, just wait a second, I've just got to remember which button to click.
Yes, I mean I have that problem now, so I can't keep up.
I have always had that problem. I was never someone who was any good at Twitch gaming. I think I've actually gotten slightly better than when I was younger, weirdly enough, which is, I don't think, very common. I think it's because games are a little bit easier than they used to be, which is great for me.
Yeah, I must admit. And when I panic in any sort of Twitch-based game, I just end up like waving the gun wildly around, so I would never shoot anything.
Yeah, my technique was to run into a wall and then look up at the ceiling and not know what I was looking at and get really lost. That was my technique back in the day. I've got to shoot something. Oh no, where am I? Where's the ground? Where's the ceiling? I don't know. I'm lost. That was my style. I think I'm a little better. If you watch me play any of the PUBG, like I don't panic the same way anymore. So I don't know. Maybe experience does play into that a little bit of just being a little bit more relaxed about it.
A little bit more relaxed, yeah.
With that, do you think that? So this is okay. So a contentious point. difficulty levels. So we're talking about this, and I'm talking about the fact that, I was never any good at games. So for me, I love when games have different difficulty levels. I love when there's an easy mode. And then sometimes with some games, I wish that there was also a story-only mode, because I'm not that interested in the gameplay, but I'm really interested in the story. And I feel like older gamers would be the same as me in that sense of, sometimes you don't want to just die every 2 seconds. You want to be able to just enjoy the game and just, go along and get into it.
I would have to agree with you. Because of time poorness, I don't want to die every 20 seconds. So I do tend to lean towards either normal or even easy, depending on if I have heard that this game is ridiculously hard. If it's got an easy setting, then I'm going to definitely smash it on the easy setting.
Yeah, it does depend on the game, but I tend to pick easy.
Yeah, and the story mode, if you could just pick story mode, like let's say, like you said, The Witcher 3 or something like Fallout, if I could just pick the story mode and you didn't have to make me go do all these side quests,
Yeah.
just write those out and just let me do the story as it's meant to be.
Yeah, for me, there's one game in particular that I really am interested in the story but not in the gameplay, and that's The Last of Us.
Yeah.
I really am intrigued by that story. I know some of it from, seeing people play in bits and pieces, but I really want to be able to just go through and play the game, in inverted commas, without having to do the fighting and that, because that doesn't interest me, basically. But that story sounds so interesting that I want to kind of almost watch it like a little movie. Like I enjoy the
quick time event.
Yeah, I enjoy the Telltale games with the quick time events where you just, you're keeping the pace along, but it's not about being skillful.
And I guess the other thing would be, are older gamers looking for like the quick time games? Like, I was just talking to my sister the other day, who's a couple of years younger than me, and she was saying how she really hated quick time games. And I was like, well, I actually quite enjoy them because I don't have to worry too much about the gameplay itself. Like, it's taking me through. I just have to press a button or make a decision every now and then.
Yeah, I like the decision aspect more than anything, I think, sometimes.
Not so much the button pressing, because that's just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, it gets a bit annoying.
But where it's like, oh, such and such says this to you, do you choose to be arrogant or respectful, blah blah blah. And I'm actually finding I'm enjoying them a lot more than the running around and killing stuff sort of games.
Yeah, so I honestly think that we will see those games kind of have a bit of a renaissance in the coming decades. I think that they'll become much more of a thing because there's going to be much more a market for them. And they're already popular now, but I think even more so as the years go on and older gamers are out there playing, they're going to want those games where you can just enjoy the experience.
It's a bit of a hard one though.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, what it is it's not that the other kind of games aren't going to be around anymore. You're always going to have your Twitch-based games. You're always going to have your shooters. There's always going to be a big market for them. But I just think it's going to be more spread out. I think that there's going to be, like, shooting games and, like, violent games dominate gaming at the moment. Like, very much so, like, most games are some kind of shooting game in some way or other. So,
and if I read one more article about how people are addicted to Fortnite, I may just smack someone.
It's so
gaming
fun.
addiction. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
That's the older people that definitely don't play games, and they're scared of games because they don't understand games. So,
but I wonder how many of those people, like they're saying that there's game addiction. I wonder how many of them have got something like Candy Crush or something on their phones.
If you look at
that they log into, like, once a week,
once a day. And most of those games have daily rewards and that.
But I wonder how many of them but then they don't consider it gaming.
Yeah, but you're on there every day. You're playing it, for a chunk of time.
It's exactly the same.
I think but that older crowd that doesn't play games. But yeah, I'm really curious to see, like, like now gamers are parents, so they're going to raise their kids in a totally different way with attitudes towards
Than what we
games.
were raised, yeah.
Yeah, like I never saw my parents play any games. I had no concept of games. They just like, that's the children's thing. That just goes over there, and we have nothing to do with it. But now people are going to play together. Like you see all the stuff with kids playing with their parents and in co-op and things. That's going to be
Mm.
you know so kids growing up with, yeah, it must be really awesome to grow up with parents who game.
I mean, my dad played a couple of games, but like it was things like Age of Empires and things like that. So not really shoot 'em ups or anything,
No.
but he didn't play them regularly. And yeah,
Yeah.
okay, they were there, so we played them.
Mm.
But now he doesn't. It's like he doesn't understand. Like
Yeah.
when they come and
He
visit,
hasn't-
they're like, "Why do you spend so much time playing video
He
games?"
didn't keep up with it then.
Yeah, did not keep up with it. No.
My parents, no idea. We had the PC and that, and I think my brother was the driving force for games in our house. Him being interested in it and playing games, so they kind of were. He was a smart kid, so they encouraged it, I think, but no idea what it was about. But yeah, I think because also the other thing is, back in the day, games were for kids. They were aimed at kids. But now you've got games that are for adults. That no doubt about it, this game is aimed at an adult. So I think that kind of games aimed at different age brackets will be more of a thing too. Like soon at some point there's going to be games that are just for people over 60. Like this is who we're targeting. This is the advertising's all going to be aimed at people over 60. That's it. Like other people might play it, but that's not who it's aimed at. I think that's going to happen as well. Like
I would say it will, especially like you said, like all the people who have grown up with video games are aging. And soon, like, they're going to have to keep bringing out games, and eventually we're going to hit a certain age bracket, and be over 55s. And
yeah,
I reckon they will, yeah.
People are already playing games now, but the amount that's going to play is going to be so much more.
It's going to be like all the way through,
yeah.
You play it from...
And from the game maker's perspective, that's an untapped market of money. And that's what it's all about. If you can get into that other market, I think they should seriously already be considering that now, of looking at the next 5-10 years and games that they can market towards.
They can bring out for the older generation.
Yeah, honestly think that is an untapped market that they could get into.
They've just got to realise it. Maybe we should write them a letter.
That's right. A proper handwritten letter so they know they were old school.
Yes.
Not an email, a letter.
And then post stamps because,
I have to buy some stamps. They're so expensive now.
Yes.
Though that ties in with something else that I was thinking about. I saw recently there was I can't remember who it was. One of the companies did a new accessibility pad thing where it's like, instead of having a controller, it's like a little pad thing with different inputs and stuff. I can't remember who it was that did it. It's only happened recently. So basically it's for people with disabilities, but that's also for older gamers. If you've got mobility issues, you can't hold a controller, but if you've got, these new little gamepaddy things, suddenly you can get involved. Like older people have, arthritis in their hands and that. They can't be. I've already got like busted wrists and thumbs from playing games. Like, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when I'm old. So holding a controller is just ugh. So yeah, I think that there will be more of those sort of like functionality of the hardware around it as well that will change.
It's very true. I've just actually tried to find what you were talking about.
Yeah,
I can't find it.
I can't remember the company that did it. It's one of the big ones.
I mean, they are already like companies making modifications.
Yeah, it's one of the big ones that did it. And it's only recently. Like it's one of the big ones. Like it's either Sony or Microsoft or.
But yeah, no, you've got a very good point. Like, yeah, I mean, after playing a couple of hours, my thumbs really do hurt. And I've got, I guess, carpal tunnel in my hands.
Yeah.
As well, which is basically just arthritis, but from video gaming, and I guess the profession I've chosen as well doesn't help.
Everyone's on computers a lot more as well.
I think that's going to be a problem.
It's going to start being an issue later on, and so then you're going to have to change the way people can game so that physically wise, so not just with being able to play, but also older gamers have other things as well. Like as you get older, your eyesight starts to have trouble with your eyesight. You have trouble with your hearing. So that's something that you've got to kind of consider for your older gamers of how do you combat that in a game? How do you make that accessible so that obviously the main, you think of people with disabilities with accessibility, but like older people, it's the same crowd in a way. Like it's a more diverse group of people that who have access to the games. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how they kind of move into that over in the next 10, 20 years, what they're going to do in terms of accessibility. And I think, so that will help with people with disabilities. And then, of course, your older gamers might kind of almost lead the push in that sense of all these older gamers are bringing in the money. So then they're helping with accessibility for people with disabilities.
Yeah. And I mean, it is something that gets forgotten. And it is nice when companies go out of their way to make sure that people with disabilities who want to play video games can get around it. Like, and you always hear these beautiful stories about how someone played Zelda but just via sound. Like, it looks. I think I might have found it.
It's like a little pad thing, and you can kind of press it and. You can
it's
different sections. Who's the company that did it? Never mind. Anyway, the point was that you've got this new hardware that is kind of going to be helping for older gamers. The reason I say this as such a big thing is because what we're talking about is that aging gamers are a big market, and so aging gamers are going to mean better accessibility, and that means better accessibility for everyone.
Yes.
So that's my point, is that if the money is there, the hardware and the accessibility will follow.
And that's right. And I mean, if there is this, as someone does make this universal gaming pad, I'd probably buy one too, to tell you the truth. So I don't have 20 million controllers lying around the house.
Yeah.
And hey, my wrists and my hands are going to go soon.
It's bad.
Might as well get used to it now.
Yeah, all the people that spend all their time for fun and for work on the computer are gonna need all this stuff in the next, unless we solve arthritis, then we're gonna need this stuff. So So I think it's gonna be really interesting in the next, the next decade, the next 20 years. I think it's gonna really be an interesting time for everyone. It's gonna change things, and I think for the better in that regard. Unless they're stupid and don't tap that market, but I can't see them being that dumb and not realizing that there's money there to be made.
No, I can't see that happening. Like they basically get in every market they possibly can. So I would assume.
And how we were talking about before about how games have changed to be more mature. That suggests that they understand that gamers are more mature sometimes. So they get it, I think. So as I can't wait to see the day when there's all these 80-year-old gamers out there just doing their thing, enjoying themselves.
Well, that's true. And I mean, another thing could be that they are realizing that the market is aging by all the remasters we're seeing recently.
That's true, because that's playing like nostalgia and that.
It is. And you've got, I guess, Crash Bandicoot, and we've got Spyro coming out. Shadow of the Colossus, these are all games that came out on like, you know, the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 and like first generation, or not first generation.
Yeah, but the point is, like, they're bringing back games from 20, 30 years ago now, because what games have been a thing for many decades now. So
And yeah, so I think they're playing on nostalgia, but also like when you've got something which is a great story, they're realizing, well, hey, these adults now played it when they were a kid. They're probably going to want to play it again.
but yeah, the
And
old
then
stuff's
their kids
terrible.
are going to get into it.
Yeah.
Well, not all of it's terrible, but yeah.
Yeah.
Some of it's pretty damn terrible, but
But like, just, I mean, like, you know, graphically and you know, engine wise, it can be pretty terrible too. Just it's not playable for a modern thing, so you got to kind of ramp it
yeah,
up.
and I mean, I guess, well, I mean, I love the retro, so me looking at something that's 8-bit isn't really upsetting. Like, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see where they were going for with this. I don't mind it, but I can understand like that a lot of the younger generation aren't going to want to look at that.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
oh, it's so pixelated. How could you play this? And I guess the expensiveness of retro gaming, like, you know,
yeah,
is ridiculous.
But
So
surely
remaking things.
Surely retro games are largely played by people who played them when they were kids and are now adults.
That's exactly right. So that's another thing as well. Like, yeah, we've got the money, but we're buying nostalgia. But then when they go and remaster it and bring it out and it looks beautiful, you're like, well, there's your money. Like, they're making a lot more remasters now. And to the point where, like, you know, you're like, oh, they're bringing out this new game. They should remaster the first one.
Quite often I don't realise things are, like, I don't know the original game, and I'll be like, oh, this new game looks interesting. Oh, it's a remaster.
Yeah. Look at this new game. Oh, no, wait.
No. It's like movies. It's the same thing. Everything's a redo.
It's getting that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Disney owns it.
That's true. Disney owns all the things. Will Disney own all our games?
They may, if they throw enough money at something.
Yeah. Yeah, so, what other things can't really think of anything else about, you know, what that older gamers will mean for games. You know, there's so many things that it's got to change, I think.
I think there's a lot. I guess, like, you know, the other thing is the Twitch market.
As in streaming.
As streaming, yeah. So things like that I'm guessing it'll continue on because, I mean, there's so many games pumping out, we can't play them all.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be something that lives on for a long time because people can't play every game that comes out, but they'll probably happily watch someone else play it.
I've done it with quite a few games.
Yeah.
Where I've watched the entirety of the game, but I have never played it myself. I watched the entire newest Final Fantasy that way. The whole thing. I watched the whole playthrough of it, of like so many hours, and it was great.
And yeah, like YouTube as well. Like, I can't play horror games myself because I'm a sook.
Yeah.
But I will watch them on YouTube because
you've
got someone else playing the commentary and they're like, oh, something's going to happen. And it takes that edge off.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know all those young people coming through now that have grown up on streaming too. That's their main entertainment. So I don't see it going away because that's how they see games. So.
And we're probably going to see an aging demographic in the Twitch and YouTube.
Yeah, because
streaming.
The live streaming is skewed very young at the moment, but that's got to change, obviously. At some point, it'll shift as people get older and they continue to be involved, and new people are coming in. Although, unless the young people move to something else, which is quite
unless they find something else better.
Yeah,
which is quite possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's probably a high chance that that's going to as well turn into an aging demographic.
Yeah. So yeah, I know people don't necessarily think that this is that a big deal, but I think it's really interesting to me of what this means. So yeah. Anyway, should we wrap this up?
It's not. I think we should, but just one line. It's not the demographic that people think either. Like if you go, oh, what demographic is the most popular gaming, people are always going to hit like the 15s through to 21-year-olds where they think they're children.
Yeah.
And then studies like this come out and it's actually like what, the 55 pluses, and then below them was the 25 to 34-year-olds. So
that 25 to the 25 to 35 kind of range is kind of one of your big ones for most, like, I think bigger for games than anything, because they're the ones that grew up with games. So but
it's just sort of like, but when you hear them going, oh, it's and again, the people who don't really understand games, they all think it's in that younger demographic.
They think it's just for young people, but those surveys are clear and studies are clearly showing that that's not the case. That older people play games, and like much older people play games.
Yeah. But yeah, we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, so let's wrap things up. So, thanks for joining us on this FedCast. I am Replenished. This is VoicelessEcho. Say bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much. If you've got any ideas for what we can be chatting about, leave us a comment. Follow us on YouTube at GameFed. Follow us on Twitch at GameFed Official for live streams. If you follow us on Twitter and Facebook, you can get updates on what we're up to and news and all kinds of things. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.